Oh, someone just said there are people waiting on the other meeting that was created. I never created any link. I'm always using the same link. Yeah, it's always one link. I created it last year. I'll be using this link until the end of the semester. Okay. Can we still see my screen, right?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
We still on track with our teaching plan. We are not left behind all. Okay, today we're still on under linear function. Yeah. And today we'll cover the concepts of price elasticity of demand and supply. So by the end of this video, for those who are not attending, and so you are here by the end of this class, this session, you should be able to explain the concepts of price elasticity and demand and supply. Like, you should know how to calculate and interpret the point and arc elasticity of demand and supply. Okay, so we still under demand and supply, but today we are doing price elasticity of both. Okay, you might be, maybe the first question you should ask yourself, why do we need to know or understand this session? I mean, why do we need to know the price elasticity of these two? Like, let's say you have a business. Oh, okay. I can't see those who are at the lobby since I'm sharing my screen. If someone joins, like on the lobby, please accept them. Just anyone you'll be able to accept. Thank you. Okay, I was saying, let's say you have a business, right? The reason you need to know these two, like the price elasticity of demand and supply, is because the price elasticity refers on how the degree of which the demand or service changes in response to change in price. Okay, understanding these two, which is the price elasticity of demand and supply, is very crucial to economics and retail business, because it helps you determine the optimal price for their products and make informed pricing decision. Like, for example, if the price of a product is 900 per unit, okay, you need to know if will a 10% increase in price result in a 10% decrease in demand, or would it have a larger percentage decrease in demand? Like, the reason we need to know this is that you need to know if you increase your price, will it affect the demand of whatever product you are selling? Because at the end of the day, if you're selling something, you need to sell everything, right? Now, if you increase the price, you need to know what effect will it have to your product. Will people still buy your products or not? That's the reason why we need to know the price elasticity of demand and supply. Because if you know such information in a business, then, like, if you know if adding a total revenue from a product depends on both price. Oh, since knowing this information depends on both price and quantity. Like, okay, again, the reason you need to know this is because you need to tell how much should you add in your price if there is a need to increase your price, so that your stock will still be sold. Yes, in simple words. Okay. The basic aim behind this section, knowing this section, is because this helps you to know whether the additional revenue that will be generated by the price increase will make you a loss in a revenue due to a decrease in demand, right? Okay, and another thing, the coefficient of elasticity is determined as the ratio of the percentage change in quantity demanded to the percentage change in price. Okay, again, remember we are dealing with quantity and price. Like, what will happen if the price increase? Will the demand of your product increase or will it decrease? Okay, so in general, the numerical value of elasticity, which is this side, is given without a sign. And this is called the absolute value. Okay, this means if the absolute value, the absolute value is equal to absolute value of psi if psi is greater or equal to 0, and it's also equal to minus psi if psi is less than 0. This means if you calculate the elasticity of demand and you get a negative value, then that negative value, let's say, for example, you have minus 1.5. That's minus 1.5. The absolute value of minus 1.5 is equal to 1.5. And again, if this 1.5 is negative, is positive, like let's say you calculate the elasticity of demand and you get 1.5, a positive 1.5, then this means the absolute value of 1.5 is equal to 1.5. Okay.
Ms. Nkomo,
Yes.
can you hear me? Just a
Yes.
quick question. When did this meeting start?
We started at 7 minutes past, but okay, I only started recording at 7 minutes past, but we started at 6. We always start at 6. It's just that I usually give you guys 5 minutes to join.
The reason for my question, there's some confusion today. So I've got an email as a reminder on my MyUnisa email address telling me about the meeting. So I joined on that link. But there's quite a few other students also locked in that meeting, and they're waiting for you.
Waiting for me.
So yeah, so I see that meeting is under general, and the meeting that you are in now, the description is linear function. So there's quite a few students that in another meeting waiting for you. They're not so that email that we received about the reminder has got the incorrect link.
Yeah, we were waiting there since 5 to 6.
We have one link. I gave you guys one link, which is the one to the general. And then when you get to the general, there's okay, I usually schedule a class under general. When you get to general, you just have to go to that meeting schedule.
Okay, I understand. It's just so confusing for us today. Thank you.
Because okay, this is how it works. I gave you guys one link to join the class, right? But if you click on that link, they send me a request for me to accept you. if I accept you, that means you are a member in that class, in the general. So whenever I schedule a class, then you get a notification that I did create, I scheduled a class or a meeting. Okay, the reason I did it like this is because I didn't want to like create a link every time we have to join a class. I don't know whether how we manage. Can you share the screen? Oh, 2 meetings now, linear functions and meeting now. Oh, okay. This is what is happening here. I created. Can you all see my screen, right?
Yes.
Yes.
You see, it says 2 meetings now. There is a linear function discussion. This one I created it. I created this last week. Last week on Wednesday. You see, it's named linear function discussion 3, and we have I have this meeting now. This one it's linear. It's DSC 1520 discussion 4. So this is what happened. People went to join last week discussion instead of this week. And there is a date here. If I join, you see, there's a date in bracket, which was last week's date. And on this one, the one that we joined, there's a date in bracket. I always put a date in bracket. And I've created the one for next week, for this week on Thursday again. It's DSC 1520 discussion 5, but under the brackets there's a date for that specific day. So people went to join our last discussion. And if you check the date on that last discussion, it's last week's date.
Sorry, Malwazi. I think that is because the communication last week was that you will not be creating a new link every time, that there'll just be one link that the students should join. So I think that's why, because I also joined last week's link, and I got those 2 meetings now, and then I tried joining the other one because most of the students are on the other one just waiting for something to happen.
But
So I don't know, going forward, are you going to be sending out an invite every week or every Mondays and Wednesdays, or is there going to be a specific one link that we are then going to be using?
okay, we have one link, but I'll keep on scheduling meetings under that one link. When you get to under general, you just have to choose the dates you want to join the class for. Because if we go to that link, the one that I create, if we go to that class, the one that I created, which is discussion 3 on Wednesday, last week's Wednesday, I won't be able to record because I've already recorded that day under that discussion. That means those who did not attend here who need a recording, they won't be able to get a recording.
So can I add there? I think the best way, I think, is just when you are logging in, I think you need to go to calendar on your Teams and then join for that particular day. So if you click on the calendar, you see the meeting and then you just join from there rather than probably the link.
Yeah, that works too. Thank you.
Yeah, and actually, you can set one meeting which is recurring, like other than like setting a meeting every week. You can set one which will be recurring for the entire semester.
That means I will only send you guys the recording at the end of this semester for all the classes.
No, what I mean is, you can send us one link when you're setting up a meeting.
That's what I did.
There
I
is
sent you guys one link.
I understand.
Or
My
did you get a different link?
yes, I got two links, but now what I'm saying is, if you can set a meeting, the meeting that you are setting, you click on the recurring. It should on my calendar the link that I've accepted. It only gives me it on the calendar. It only shows the date of today, not next week. So next week I will have to go back to my emails and access this meeting again on the emails, not on the calendar.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually agree with Chepo on that one. So you can set a standing meeting reoccurring every Mondays and Wednesdays from 6 to 7:30. So we should be able to record with every session, and you should be
The
able
thing
to
is,
send.
the reason I don't want to set a recurring is because there will be times where I'll have to cancel a class. Yeah? And I know some of you that you don't like read the notifications or emails. So some will join the meeting and wait for me while I'm not there. So it's better I set an invite,
Yes.
like I set a
You
discussion.
can cancel.
It is
You can cancel
it
one
is possible
class.
to yes,
You
it
can
is possible to
cancel one
cancel one.
meeting. Sorry, yeah, Tsepo, that's what I wanted to say.
Yes.
Because I
Or
was
maybe
also
shift.
confused, and I do have two meetings on my side. I joined the other class because I got a notification to say you have a meeting starting now. I joined on the link, and then next thing they say there's another meeting. So both of them are for today. That's why the pop-up came as a reminder to say join the class before 6 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
So
But also
you can set up a meeting.
but
And
also
when
what
you
we
have
need to
the
understand, what you need to understand also why you got, I think, a link to say join now is because somebody, I think, entered in a wrong meeting. So you get a notification to say join now. So you immediately just click on that link and you join because somebody joined a wrong meeting because you were already invited. So it's not to say there were two links that were sent. There is only one link. Just use the calendar and then you'll be able to join that meeting for the day. Because if you use the link to say join now and you join that meeting, if I open the meeting for next week, you will receive a notification to say join now and you join. And then you find there's no one. So use the calendar. Use the calendar on your team. You'll be able to join the correct meeting.
Right, thank you.
Let us continue, Miss Gomo.
Okay, I was saying we'll use an absolute value for elasticity, for a coefficient of elasticity for both demand and supply. And our absolute value, which is the coefficient of elasticity, can fall in under three categories, right? Right? We can have our absolute value of psi to be greater than 1, and it can be less than 1, and it can equals 1, right? Okay. If the absolute value of psi, which is the elasticity, the coefficient of elasticity is greater than 1, this means the elasticity of demand is less than -1, or is greater than 1. Because remember, if it's less than 1, let's say we get the elasticity of demand as -2, we'll take the absolute value. Please unmute your mic. Please mute your mic. Okay, if we get -2, which is less than -1, we'll take the absolute value of -2, and the absolute value of -2 is equal to 2. That means the absolute value of -2 will be greater than 1, right? Again, if we get the elasticity of demand, the coefficient of elasticity of demand is 2, absolute value of 2 is 2, which is also greater than 1, right? So if this is the case, we will say the demand or supply is elastic. Okay, and again, our condition 2 is when the absolute value is less than 1. If this is the case, this will only happen when the absolute value is between 1 and -1, right? And if this is the case, then we will say the demand or supply is inelastic. Okay, another thing, if the demand or supply is elastic, this means the percentage change in demand supply is greater than the percentage change in price. And if the elasticity of demand or supply is inelastic, this means the percentage change in demand or supply is less than the percentage change in price. So for elasticity, the percentage in demand or supply is greater than the percentage in change in price. And here, the percentage in demand or supply is less than the percentage in change of price. Okay, then we have the last case, which is inconclusive, which is equal to, or when the absolute value is equal to 1. If the absolute value is equal to 1, then it's the elasticity of demand or change. You can't conclude whether it's elastic or inelastic. This demand is inconclusive, right? So we'll always have 3 cases for both demand and supply. Okay, let's start by the price elasticity of demand. Okay, this is just the measurement that allows you to know the consumer sensitivity to price change. Okay, in order to apply the effective price strategy and estimate the weight of price in purchase choices. And another thing, the price elasticity of demand also help us to see what substitute can be reduced. Demand of competitivity. Like if you know the price elasticity of demand for your products, that can help you understand what can you do to reduce the demand of other products that is selling that is competitive to your products. Okay. Yeah, going back to the basic aim of knowing this, which is the price elasticity of demand. Okay, please accept the ones that are on the loop. Yeah, 5 already. Okay, just the basic aim of knowing this, which is knowing the price elasticity of demand in a business. This helps you to know what will happen with the sales if you change the price. Okay, so this means knowing this, the price elasticity of demand helps you take decisions easy on whether you have to change the price of your product or not. Okay, in simple words, going back to the definition on our study guide, the price elasticity of demand is a measure of how demand responds to a rise or fall in the price of good or service. Okay, for the price elasticity of demand, we'll use substitute, we'll use that symbol to represent the price elasticity of demand. So in a question, when you see this symbol, just know it means the price elasticity of demand. Okay. To calculate this, the price elasticity of demand, you will use this formula, which is the percentage change in quantity of demand or over the percentage change in price. Okay, remember with price elasticity, we deals with price and with the change in price and the change in quantity. Okay, this simply means, okay, we have the percentage change in quantity over the percentage change in demand. Okay, we can write this in mathematically as the percentage change in demand over the percentage change in price. Then we have a percentage change in price. Okay, again, the percentage change in demand is equal to the change in demand over demand times 100 over the percentage over the change in price over price times 100. So instead of writing it like this, you can just simply write this. And also here, you can just write it like this. Again, remember, okay, we have hundreds over hundreds. This can simply cancel out. And if these two cancel out, we'll have the change in demand over demand divide by, which is this, divide by the change in price over price, right? But if we want to reverse to cancel the division, we can just replace the division with a multiplication sign, right? Because it's the division is the inverse of the multiplication. But if we want to cancel the division and substitute that with multiplication, you can just do the reciprocal of what you are dividing with, of your denominator. So since we have change in price or change in demand over demand, if we want to replace this, the division sign with a multiplication sign, you have to multiply with the reciprocal of this, the inverse of this, as in the inverse of the denominator. Since we have the change in price over price, if we write multiplication sign, this would be price over the change in price, right? So this is the same thing as change in price times price, or the change in demand times price over the change in price times the demand, right? And another thing, if you have, let's say, 2 times 3 over 4 times 6, you can write this as in, it's still the same thing, you'd get the same answer as in 2 over 4 times 3 over 6, right? So if we use this here, this would be the change in demand over the change in price, right? Times price over the demand. So instead of writing this, we can use this formula to calculate the change, the price elasticity of demand. Yo. Please mute your mic. Because if I do it on my side, you won't be able to ask any questions. See. Mbali? Oh, the worst part, you didn't even follow instructions to join using your My Life.
It's Mbali. Mute her.
Fine, Mbali. Okay, we can just simply use this formula if we want to calculate the price elasticity of demand. Okay, and another thing, we know that the value of is there someone saying something? Okay, another thing the value of this, which is the value of elasticity of demand, will always be negative because the slope of demand is given as negative, right? We know that the slope, okay, the demand is given by Q is equal to A minus BP, right? Remember, we use this equation as, okay, to represent, okay, this is the general equation for demand function, right? And we said the slope here is minus B. So since this is the equation for the general equation of the demand and the slope is minus B, if you compare these two, this means change in Q over the change in P for the general equation of, for a general demand function will always be equal to minus B, right? So again, rather than using this equation, it's still okay to write the elasticity of demand as minus B times E over Q. So if you use this equation, this is the simple version of this equation, you'll still get the same answer. So it's better to just use the simple version of that one, of this one. Right. Okay, I hope we are still together. Okay, and then another thing, the negative sign, this just represents, it's just the direction of the demand regarding the change in price. Namely, let's say an increase in price would always result in the decrease in demand, while the decrease in price will always result in the decrease in demand. So this negative tells us that relation. And again, we can write our price elasticity of demand as a function of P or of P only, right? Okay. We know that Q, the general equation for demand is Q is equal to A minus BP. And I said we can use this equation as the general equation for determining the elasticity of demand. Here in this equation, we have minus B is equal to P over Q. And from the general equation of demand, we know that Q is equal to A minus BP, right? So if you are told that you should leave your answer in as a function of P, okay, you just have to take this Q and substitute it back here. And then your elasticity of demand will be in a form of P only. Okay, let's do that. We have ET minus, okay, is equal to minus B times P over Q. And we said Q is equal to A minus BP. So this means we have minus B times P over A minus BP. So if you are asked to write your elasticity of demand as a function of P, you will leave your function in this form. Again, here, you see, we know that A and B, these are just constant. So this means we only have one variable here in this case, which is P. Since these are just constant. So this means this elastic of demand is in the form of P, which means it's a function of P. Okay, here in this module, we'll consider two approaches to measure the price elasticity. Like we'll consider the approach where we measure the point elasticity and the approach where we measure the arc elasticity. Okay, just a second, I need to turn on the lights. Okay, we'll do these two approach in both the demand and also under the supply. Okay, the point price elasticity and the arc price elasticity. Okay, here on the other approach, we'll be asked to find, like, to calculate the price elasticity at a given point, like at a certain price. And then we'll be asked on another approach, it's where we find the price elasticity on an interval, right? Let's say you have, maybe you're selling phones, and then at the point, it's like you are asked to find, let's say you are told that your phone maybe 5,000, right? And then at the point they will ask you to calculate what would be the price elasticity of your phones when the price is 5,000, right? And then as for the interval, you'll be given a certain region. Like, let's say they will ask you to find the price elasticity maybe whereby your phones increase maybe from 5,000 to 10,000. Like, what will happen in between the two? What would be the relation between the price and demand? Like, for example, if you increase the price of your phone from 5,000 to 10,000, will that affect the demand? Will still people buy your phones? So yeah, that's what we'll be looking at next, starting with the point price elasticity of demand. Okay, and just write it. Okay, this is just a measure of how the elasticity at a point of demand functions. For example, let's look at the general equation of demand, the general demand equation, which is Q is equal to A minus BP. Okay, the point elasticity at any point for this general equation will equal to, okay, for example, suppose we are given a point, any point Q, P naught and Q naught. Okay, if we have this we are given this general equation and a point, and we are asked to find the point elasticity at this point, then our point elasticity of demand will equal to the change in quantity over the change in price times the given price over the given quantity, right? And we said this is our slope, right? And if we are given this general equation, then the slope is minus b, right? If the slope is minus b, so this means the price elasticity of demand at this point will equal to minus b times P naught over Q naught, right? So this is just the point elasticity of demand at this point. Okay, let's do one example. Okay, EG1. Okay, suppose we are given a demand function for our product as Q equal to 2,400 minus P, right? Let's say we are asked to determine the point elasticity of demand when the price is equal to, let's say, 2,200. Okay. We are asked to find the elasticity of demand for this demand function at a price 2,200. Okay. We say the formula for finding the elasticity of demand at any point is D is equal to minus B times P naught over Q naught, right? If we look at this formula, if we compare these two, this one and this one, right? You can see that minus B is equal to 1, right? And we have Q naught as 2,200. We have Q naught as 2,200. But to use this formula, we need B, we need P naught, we need Q naught, and we only have minus B and Q naught, right? But we can just go back to this equation, to this demand function, because the demand function has as Q and P as unknown function, and we know that the P is equal to 220. So the next step is to go back to this equation and say, what would be our Q if our P is equal to 220, 2,200, right? Okay, which is our, okay, we are given P naught. So if we substitute P naught here, we will obtain Q naught, right? So this means we can say Q naught is equal to 2,400 minus P naught. And we know that P naught is 2,200, right? We have 2,400 minus 2,200, which is 200, right? Okay. If we put our P naught here in this equation, this means we have a point P naught, Q naught, which equals to 2,200 is to 200, right? Okay. And if we have this point and our P, we can use these three to find our elasticity of demand, the one that they said we should find, because we now have all the three unknowns that we need to use to find the elasticity of demand. Okay, let's substitute this back to the elasticity of demand equation. If we do that, say we said minus B is equal to 1, right? So this means we have minus, because we have 1 as our B, times P naught. Our P naught is 2,200, and our Q naught, we obtained 200, right? We have 200. So this means our elasticity of demand is equal to minus 2,200 over 200. And if we use this, our calculator, will obtain minus 11, right? So this means our elasticity of demand is minus 11, right? And then we do not end here. Remember, I said our elasticity of demand is given as a non-negative, right? Which is the absolute value. And our absolute value falls under three conditions. I said we have a condition whereby our elasticity of demand is greater than 1. Okay, our absolute value of the elasticity of demand or supply is greater than 1. And if that's the case, we will say our demand or elasticity is elastic, right? And we have the case whereby these two is less than 1. And if that's the case, we'll say we have an inelastic. Okay, the demand or supply is inelastic. But in this case, we have minus 11, right? Minus 11. And I said the absolute value of, okay, the absolute value will equal to 11. Okay, if we had 11 here, the absolute value will be positive if it was minus or if it was plus. If it was minus, then this means the absolute value is less or equal to 0, right? And if it's positive, this means the absolute value is greater than 0. But these two, if we take its absolute value, it will always come back positive, right? We obtain an elasticity of demand as minus 11. And okay, using this means the absolute of demand, an absolute value of demand is equal to minus absolute value of 11, which is 11, right? And okay, and we said if the absolute value of any elastic is greater than 1 and 11 is greater than 1, right? Since this is greater than 1, we can conclude that the demand is elastic. Okay, you don't just end here after obtaining the elasticity of demand. You still have to interpret it. Okay, this is us interpreting it. Okay, we said the elasticity of demand is equal to minus 11. Then the next step is to interpret its absolute value. And the absolute value of minus 11 is equal to 11. Okay, now you have to say whether, state whether it's elastic or inelastic. Okay, this does have marks too, right? So the next step, we interpret it, and in this case, we said the demand is elastic. Okay, if the demand is elastic, this means for any 1% increase or decrease in the demand, it will cause the Okay, for any 1% increase in price, maybe the 1% increase or decrease in price, it will result in the 11% decrease or increase in demand. Yeah, that's how you will interpret this. Okay, let's do another example. Okay, going back to this the same function we were given, right? Which is Q is equal to 2,400 minus P. Suppose now we are given our price, which is P as 1,000. And again, we are asked to find the elasticity of demand. Okay. We have the function Q is equal to 2,400 minus P. And we are asked to find the elasticity of demand if price is equal to 1,000, right? And we said we'll use this equation as to represent the elasticity of demand. This would be minus B times P naught over Q naught. Okay, if we look at this information, we can find our B naught here as -1. We have B as, okay, as -1, right? Because the slope here is -1. Remember, the slope is always the coefficient of the dependent variable, which is P in this case. Okay, and we have our P, and we need Q naught for us to use this formula. But we can find our Q naught here from the demand function, because we know P, because this equation has two unknowns, is Q and P, and we know P, so this means we can use this equation to find the other unknown, which is Q. So this means if we substitute P naught here, we'll obtain Q naught, right? So we have Q naught is equal to 2,400 minus 1,000. And if you punch this in your calculator, you should obtain 1,400. And this means we have P naught, Q naught equals to 1,000 to 1,400, right? So we have a point, and we have a function, a demand function, and from the demand function, we can obtain our slope, which in this case is -1. So we can now use our elasticity of demand. And so if we use this, we'll have ED is equal to minus B times P naught over Q naught, which is, okay, we have -1, right? And P naught is equal to 1,000, and Q naught is equal to 1,400. And if you punch this in your calculator, you should have -0.71, right? Okay, this -0.71 is the point elasticity of demand. To interpret this, you need the absolute value of the point elasticity of demand. And the absolute value of the point elasticity of demand will equals to the absolute value of -0.71, which is equal to 0.71. And you compare this, the absolute value, to 1. It's either it's less than 1, equals to 1, or greater than 1. And we know that 0.7 is less than 1, right? Since the absolute value of the elasticity of demand is Oh God, please mute your mic. Unmute your mic. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna take you out. Since this is the case, okay, so since the absolute value of the elasticity of demand is less than 1, then we interpret and say the demand is inelastic at this price. Its P is equal to 1,000. Okay, and then you can proceed and say, okay, we said this, the demand is inelastic, right, at this price. And then you can even say this means when there's a 1% increase or decrease in price, this will result in 0.71 decrease or increase in demand. Yeah. Before we move to another approach, which is the interval, do we have any questions?
Nothing from my
Yes,
side.
no? Okay, thank you.
No
Okay,
questions.
I have a
let's move.
question.
Yes.
So I just wanted to ask with the last section where you're indicating practically you're defining inelastic or elastic. Is it okay if you just stipulate that the percentage increase or decrease in demand will be less than the percentage increase or decrease in price? Or do you have to stipulate do you have to put it in the quantity that you've received? Like, for example, in here, we've got the 0.71.
Okay, this is how I usually do it with my thingy. Possible answers, possible solutions. Okay, you see, we have 3 points. We have the absolute value is equal to 0.1, which is less than 1, right? And then another point is that this is inelastic, 0.2. And another point is that if we make an increase of 1% in the price, then this will result in 0.71% in decrease or increase in demand. Okay. We have 3 points that the correct options will have all these options correct. Then maybe the next option, which is the incorrect option, will have two options correct, which is the price is inelastic, and the 1% increase in price will result in 1% decrease in demand, right? If you don't know that the absolute value of minus 0.71 is equal to 0.71, that means you've got that, you'll choose that one, and that means your answer is wrong, right? Then I might have the other option as, okay, the first option, the first sentence, statement will be correct, which is the absolute value of minus 0.7 is equal to 0.7, which is less than 1, right? And then I will change inelastic to elastic, but leave the other statement, that statement is correct. So if you don't know that, if the elasticity is less than 1, that means the elasticity of demand or price or supply is inelastic. That means you got that wrong, right? So you need to know these 3 statements, what they mean. You need to know how to interpret using these 3 statements. But it's an online thing, right? You're allowed to, it's an open book. You're allowed to use your notes. So if you can't know if this 3 statement by the heart, you'll be allowed to use your book, but it's better to know them because it will save you time. Did that answer you?
I'm not quite sure actually. What I was asking was that, like, for example, in the book, it seems like I thought it just indicates the theory of it. Like, let's say it's inelastic, and then when you've got inelastic, then you just stipulate that the demand, the increase in the increase or decrease in demand will be less than the increase or decrease in price percentage.
Will result in the increase or decrease.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then instead of putting figures, you're just now putting the statement there, but there's no figures. Would that result in it being wrong?
Yeah, I need to know you managed to get the correct figures.
Yeah, no, the figure would be there. Obviously, I would say that elasticity of demand equals 0.71, which means it's inelastic. And then after saying inelastic, I wouldn't put, therefore, a 1% increase or decrease in price would be a 0.71 increase, decrease in demand. I would just write the words, but not put the numbers.
Okay, you need to put in the numbers too. But anyway, you're not putting any number, you're just selecting the correct answer, right? The numbers will be there for you. It's just you need to choose the ones with the correct figures.
Oh, yes, because it's multiple choice.
Yeah. Is it fine now?
Thank you.
Let's move on to the price elasticity of demand.
Mr. Nkoma, quick question.
Yes.
Can you apply this to real world scenarios like, for example, currencies and stock prices?
Yes, you can apply.
Would it be a little bit more advanced, or can you use the basic
You can
information
use
that
the
we
basic. In fact, these are not the basic. It is advanced.
Okay, all right.
It's just
that's
that
good to know.
the models that we are using, they are basic, but the formulas we are using, you can apply them anyway. It will work.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, let's move on to the price elasticity of demand. Okay, this measures the elasticity of demand over any interval. Like this is where you are given a certain interval and you are asked to find the relation between the price and the demand. Like For example, if we are given two price, let's say if you are increasing your products from price 1 to price 2, what would happen to the demand? Will it increase or decrease? Will it have any positive or negative effect? Okay. This uses the average in price and the average in quantity at the beginning and at the end of the interval. Okay. If you are asked, for example, to calculate the interval, which is the arc elasticity of demand between two price, maybe you are given 2 point price 1 to price 2, right? Price 1 will give you quantity 1. What will happen to the quantity? This would be the quantity 1. And price 2 will give you the second quantity, the second unit of quantity. Okay. And these two, okay, remember the linear, okay, remember the demand function is a linear function, which means we have something like this. Okay, it's negative. These two points would be on the line, which is the demand, which forms the demand function, which is the plot of the demand function of any demand function that should be given. And if this is the case, and you are asked to find the arc price elasticity, then your arc price elasticity will equal to, okay, we're still using ED, will equal to the change in quantity over the change in price times half P1 plus P2. Remember I said we are using averages, over half quantity 1 plus quantity 2. And remember, this is just the slope of the general equation of the demand function, which is minus B in this case. So instead of using this, you can just write minus B, right? And we have half over half. So these two, they can cancel out, and will be left with minus B is equal to P1 plus P2 over Q1 plus Q2. Okay. To avoid this, minus B, P1 plus P2 over Q1 plus Q2, because these two, they are not the same. I usually put brackets so that I won't confuse the multiplication sign and this sum. So it's better you put minus B, 2 brackets, P1 plus P2, so that you'll know that you need to first add these two, then you multiply with minus B. So we'll use this equation, this formula to calculate the arc price elasticity at any point if we are given 0.1 and 0.2 as P1, the price 1, and price 2, and this will correspond to quantity 1 and quantity 2. If this is the case, then you'll use this formula to calculate the arc price elasticity of demand. Okay, let's do one example. Let's do the one that we're doing, right? EG2. Okay, remember, as before we were given our quantity as Q is equal to 2,400 minus P. Okay. Remember, I calculated the price elasticity at 2 points. First, it's 1,200 and then it's 2,200. Now, I want to know the price elasticity between these 2 points, like on this interval. Like, what would happen if the price moved from P equals to 1,200 to P equals 2,200, right? Again, we now use we now going to use this formula because now we want to know the interval, which is the arc price elasticity. Okay. Remember, this uses the average, meaning we need 2 or more points in this case. And we have P1 and P2. And we have minus B from this equation, right? And to use this formula, we need Q1 and Q2. We can get Q1 by using Q1 on this equation, and we can get Q2 by substituting P2 on this from this equation. Okay, so the next step is to find Q1 and Q2. Okay, we'll say if P is equal to 1,200, then we substitute P where there is P on that function, on the demand function that should be given, right? Which is this in this case. So we'll say if P is equal to 1,200, then Q is equal to 2,400 minus 1,200, which is 1,200, right? If this is the case, this means we have Q1 is 1,200 is to 1,200. So now we have P1, P2, Q1, and B, and we still need Q2. To get Q2, we need to use P2 where there is P in our demand function. Okay, we'll say if P is equal to 2,200, then P2 would be 2,400 minus 2,200, which is 200. If this is the case, this means we have P2, Q2 is 2,200 is to 200, right? Now we have our 2 points. We can calculate the arc price elasticity on that interval between these 2 points. So we have the arc price elasticity of demand as E is equal to minus B times P1 plus P2 over Q1 plus Q2. We said our B is minus 1, right? So this means we'll have minus is 2. Our P1 is 1,200 and our P2 is 2,200 over our Q1. We said it's 1,200 and our Q2 is 200, right? If we simplify this, you'll have minus, okay, 1,200 is 2,200, we'll get 3,400 over 1,400, which is minus 2.43. Okay, this is the arc price elasticity of demand. Then the next step is is to interpret this, okay? Remember, to interpret this, you need to find the absolute value of this. The absolute value of this will equal to 2,43, which is greater than 1. Since this is greater than 1, this means the demand is elastic over this interval. Do we have questions?
Nothing from my side.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the lesson. I don't know that my question is relevant. I've been struggling to get the link or the recording, or even of the previous one that we did. So I don't know that with this one, or maybe I'm the one that I'm lost. I can't access I got the first one that we did, but the second one I didn't get it.
I think I took time to upload the second one. Did you check today or yesterday? When last did you check?
I was checking it even now, but I managed to got it on Telegram. But I don't know, maybe or it's on my site, but I can access the one that we did the first time. The second one, I think, is the one for the supply and demand. I can't get it.
Okay, if you fail to access it via our YouTube channel, you can check under lessons. I do have them under lessons, both of them there. So if you can't like access it via YouTube, you can check under lessons. Like even this one, I will upload it under lesson 1. Then the next two will be under lesson 2. Just check what lesson 1 covers, what lesson 2 covers, because this one is part of lesson 1. So I will upload it there and also on YouTube.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay. Then we have price elasticity of supply. Okay. I'll do just one example here again. The price elasticity of supply indicates how quickly procedures shift.
Hello,
Yes.
ma'am.
Yes.
I just want to get clarification of the answer, especially when you are explaining the absolute. What do you call it? The absolute elasticity. So when you get the answer, it is negative, but when you explain it down there, it is positive. So is it how we should do it?
It's because minus A, absolute value of minus A is equal to absolute value of plus A, which is equal to A. So if you get a negative value, you put it under absolute value, that value would become positive. Again, if you get a positive value, you put it under absolute value, then that value will still be positive.
Okay, thank you so much for the clarification.
All right. Okay, let's move on to the price elasticity of supply. Okay, this just indicates how quickly procedures shift production levels in response to price changes. Okay, in economic theory, this predicts how prices rise or falls. Procedures will want to. Okay, in simple words, using the definition on the study guide, say price elasticity of supply is a measure of how supply responses to rise or fail in the price of goods or service. Okay, again, we will start by considering the supply function, which is Q is equal to C plus BP. Remember, we said this is the general equation for a supply function. Okay, if we are given a supply function as as this equation, right? Here, this we have, okay, here our slope is positive d. Then if this is the case, that means the point elasticity of supply, it will equal to the change, okay, the percentage change in quantity supplied over the percentage change in price, the price of any goods or service. And if this is the case, this will mathematically, we can write this mathematically as the change in Q over the change in P times P over Q. And we remember we said this is the slope, right? And our slope for the supply function is equal to D. So rather than us using change in Q over change in P, we can just use D. So this is our formula for calculating the elasticity of supply. Okay, the difference between these two, remember, for the elasticity of demand, we have Q is equal to A minus BP. This means the elasticity of demand here will have ED is equal to minus B, since the slope is minus B, times P over Q. If we were calculating for a point, we'll have P naught over Q naught if the point was Q naught, P naught. Here, our slope was positive. This was positive D. That's why we have D, and we use the substitute S for the elasticity of supply. And if we see the substitute as D, we are calculating the elasticity of demand. Okay. Again, if we are given 2 points, we are asked to find, like, if we are given an interval and we are asked to find the arc elasticity of supply, then let's say we are given this 2 point, P1, which corresponds to Q1, to P2, which corresponds to Q2. Then the elasticity of supply between this interval will equal to the change in Q over the change in P times half, okay, the average, which is P1 plus P2 over half times Q1 plus Q2. But this half and half will cancel out. And we said this is the slope, and the slope here is D. So this means we'll have absolute, we'll have absolute of supply as D times P1 plus P2 over Q1 plus Q2. So this is the formula we'll use to calculate the arc elasticity of supply. The procedure is the same, it's just that the formulas are different. But the way you interpret your absolute elasticity of supply is the same as the way you interpret the absolute elasticity of demand. It's just that where there is a demand, now we have a supply. If we say, if we get the absolute value as greater than 1, as for the demand, we say the demand is elastic. As for the supply, we said the supply is elastic. Please do this example on your own because we are out of time. Determine price. Elasticity of supply. when the price is 70 rand. Okay. Given the supply function is P is equal to 100 plus 5Q. Okay, again, you will first calculate the price elasticity of supply. To get the price elasticity of supply, remember you need B, you need Q, you need P, and we have P as 70. So you can just use that 70 and this equation to find Q. But here in this case, the first thing that you need to do is to make Q the subject of the formula. And then you substitute back the value of P to find Q. Once you have PQB, you can use this equation. You can use this equation. And then you need to interpret the absolute value as we did for the demand. Do we have questions?
No question. Thank you.
Stop recording.